Hello, neighbor. I'm Anna Elizabeth from the Five Facets. We are here to help you turn struggle into success and heartache into healing, no matter the adversity that you're facing. Within this global COVID crisis, you are being challenged, and all of us are, across all of our five facets, across your entire being. And we are here to help you navigate some of that. It's not just the humans who are being impacted during this global crisis. And our guest today is here to help us understand a few things about our furry friends. And I'd like to welcome Colleen Buck of Transfer Groomers. Colleen, welcome. Please tell us a
Thank
little bit
you.
about yourself and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And well, I'm a dog groomer, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. I have a business, Transfer Groomers, which is a mobile dog grooming. It's a conversion van with a salon set up in it. It's fully self-contained, and there's this, I knew this would go really well as far as a business goes when I started, but I didn't know it was going to be this terrific. I'm extremely busy, but what I've learned through the years is that there's so much more about this business than dogs. It's also the people that I encounter that I really enjoy. So during this time, I really miss the customers as well as the dogs. This for me has become something that was a job change. I was working for my family's business, which is a freight brokerage in Big Flats, and I decided that instead of being behind a computer screen and dialing the phone all day, I needed something more. I needed a creative outlet, and I had always had an interest in dogs, and I had my own dog, which I got during a time where I was going through a real severe depression. Had some family court issues with my kids, and that was ongoing for 14 years, believe it or not. And I got this little dog that I adopted from the Humane Society, and she needed grooming. She was a long-haired dog, and I decided to put her up on my countertop and start kind of trimming her up and stuff. And I don't know, it just, everything came together one day where I knew I had to do something different. So I started grooming out of my house, and I had a pickup and delivery service, which was people loved. I'd pick the dog up, bring him to my house, and then deliver him groomed. And once I did that and pretty much self-trained with this whole thing, I got a book out of the Steele Memorial Library, which was a Stone's book of dog grooming, and decided to investigate that and groom the dogs. And I learned a lot, and I got bit a few times. And my husband said, listen, he goes, this all goes with it. You know, dogs that don't want to be groomed, which, as I found out through the years, none of them want to be groomed. There's like maybe 2 out of 100 that enjoy the experience of getting groomed. It is stressful. It's stressful on pets, and if you can maintain that confidence and a certain calmness with them, they respond to that. So I learned that through the whole time too. And then I decided that I'd get my business going after I got experience, and people were happy with what they were getting, and I was happy with what I was putting out. And I bought a Wagon Tails grooming van out of the Indiana area. And they've been in business for what, I guess at that point, now it's about 50 years, believe it or not. They've had these grooming vans. And I was as surprised as anybody, because when I saw one, it's like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get one of those vans, and I'm going to go out there. And I think I had just read the book, The Secret, and the stars were all aligning, and I knew that this wasn't going to fail. Something told me, because when you love something that much, you do what you love and the success will come. And I always told my children that, and it was true for me too, at a time where I needed to really, I needed something to grab onto. So that was it. And it was, this is my third grooming van, because they wear out pretty quick. And so they allow you to trade up. And the technology now in these grooming vans is really something it's a marvel. It really is. It's the best job I ever had, in so many ways. I mean, I have my independence, that I can make my own schedule. I can do as many dogs as I want a day. Usually I do now about 4. When I started, it was 6. Because I was a lot younger and I had a lot more energy. But yeah, now things have changed. The grooming industry has developed to a point where the amount that you can charge for a dog is probably doubled, I'm going to say, in the last 20 years. So that makes it more lucrative if you want to do a mobile operation, which they do encourage. This company, of course, they sell the van, so they're going to have all the advantages of that. But it really is true. I just made my last payment on this third van March 1st. And yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
And it came just in time, didn't it?
That must feel really good to be able to do that. And I know we've known each other for a few years, and one of the things that I noticed about you right out of the gate is how passionate you are about what you do, and not just about grooming, but you're passionate about the animals and their humans. Mm-hmm. And that's as I said in the beginning of this, it's not just we adults who are being impacted by this. We're being literally impacted across all of our 5 facets. Our children are impacted. Our animals are impacted. The crops themselves and nature, I mean, that's not really impacted, but in some ways it's experiencing the stress of the human interaction or lack thereof. So it really, across our entire being and existence. And I know farmers who are having some issues with schools closed and things like that, and that's another topic. But for you to be able to have both of those skills, and we've talked about this, and it's one of the things that I've always admired about you, is really you have a great appreciation for both the humans and the animals, and your interest is in meeting the needs of both the humans and our furry friends. So I'm sure that you have people who have reached out to you during this, who you have seen on a regular basis taking care of their animals. What are some of the current challenges that your clients have reached out to you with? What are some of the things that they're facing? People who use a professional groomer and now aren't able to in this social distancing. I know you said many of your clients are elderly, and so early on in this, you chose to close down your business so you wouldn't run the risk of impacting them,
Yep.
or you contracting it and then passing it on to them. So what are some of the things that you're seeing that people are faced now that they can't use their groomer, and what
Well, I have had a few people reach out to me. Now, last year, and it was about a year ago, I got bit by a large dog, and I was hospitalized for about 3 days, and I was off work for 3 weeks. So that was kind of I think our prelude to this year's,
right.
what is it now? For me, it's 6 weeks now. It's that I've been gone. So it's almost like it was a trial run to go to be without me, and now they know that they can endure it. And what I have told them is, first of all, I want you to know to, please, if you can, not to stress about it, because this will end. I will be back. And I figured at the time when I was telling them this a few weeks ago that, I figured it wouldn't be more than a couple of months. I don't know that, but there's just a feeling that I have. And I said, for about the next couple of months that I don't see you, nails were an issue. So I said, as far as nails go, I know the vet will clip nails, if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself. And they don't, because that's why they have me. So, the first reaction to, oh my gosh, everything's shutting down. What am I going to do? It's like, for me, one of my concerns was I get fake eyelashes put on every 3 weeks. And now it's like, I don't have any eyelashes, and I'm thinking, how important is this? But when it's a pet, you do have concerns. They're your companions, they're your children, and they just want to make sure that everything's in order for them, which is
Right.
just that initial type of, I'm stressed, what am I going to do,
Well, and the nails, I know just from my own experience, like we have an elderly cat, he's 18 and he's an outdoor cat. And so he's clipping his nails. My daughter is a vet tech, and fortunately she comes over, and the other day she's like, his nails really need to be clipped. And he had an injury to his one back leg, and I have tried clipping his nails, but that leg is really sensitive. And so he gets anxious, and then I get anxious, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. And then our dog, we have a rescue who, I don't know what she endured. We've had her for 4.5 years now, and yet she literally has to be sedated at the vet in order to clip her nails. So what happens for me is, like, she's in the house all the time, and she's starting to scuff up my hardwood floors. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I know some of the vets right now are only seeing emergencies. So what would be, like, as far as nails? I know that, like, with dogs, and I don't know about cats, but there's do you do dogs and cats as well? Or
just
dogs?
just dogs. I did just get a Persian cat last summer, and so that's a whole new world for me. I know nothing about cats until now. I don't know what made me do that, but it was just, I had to do it. I had to get her. But yeah, it's just dogs
Okay.
that, professionally that
Now, I know, and for some people who have clipped their own dog's nails, this might be universal, but there may be some people that don't know. Like, the dogs have that dark line, which is like the vein, and you want to clip off the clear part of their nails. And I know there's all different kinds of clippers that you can buy, and everybody has their own preference. But if somebody were to try to clip their dog's nails at home, what would be the tips that you would have for them to be able to do that as safely as possible for themselves and for their animal?
Well, the first thing I would do is have them on a leash. Okay, when you put a dog on a leash, it it makes them more stable as far as their movement goes. There's something about that when you put the leash on them, it's almost like it's like a kid in a classroom where you tell them, now you got to sit down and listen. That's kind of the same comparison. It gets their attention. It lets them know, uh-oh, I got something's going on. I can't run away, so I'm going to have to stand here and see what's going to happen. Usually they know. I believe dogs are telepathic anyway, because they always know when I'm coming to their
Right.
house. They remember, but the customers sometimes don't. But they always know that I'm going to be going. First, put them on a leash, and if they're good about it and they stand there, or if they want to lay down, but keep them on the leash. Try to just take the ends of the nail off, because some people, when I try to give someone instructions, I think about the first time I did with the little dog that I had that I adopted. I didn't know anything about anything, and I remember how very nervous I was about that. But here's the thing, they sense that. They sense your insecurity about, oh, I don't want to take too much, or I don't want to cut too much of it. They take that all in. They know that you're not confident. And I know it's true, because when they get on my table and I go, okay, come on, we're gonna do this. And a lot of times it's almost like they're already ready for me to just take over, and they trust me. There's a lot of times it takes them a while. If they're recurring customer, it takes them a long time before they're not absolutely petrified and pulling all over the place. But I would say if they're getting longer, try to take just the ends off. Don't worry about, you're going to have plenty of nail there. And if they're not like a dark nail where you really can't see the quick at all, try to just take the very ends off,
A little
or
sharp
take a little bit
a
off
little
at a
sharp
time.
pointy end. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Now, with some toy breeds, the really small dogs, if you can just, maybe if you're watching TV and you have them in your lap, get like one of these like acrylic Emery boards, the real rough ones for like acrylic nails, and just scuff them at the ends, and it really will wear right down. A lot of people have done that.
Okay. Yeah,
Then there's none of that flipper snapping to, intimidate them. And it also intimidates, the owner too. So if that's something that's a little gentler approach, I would try that.
and those
Or
are readily available.
someone
Yeah.
that might be, yeah, and somebody who might be more experienced that do their if a friend of a friend can do it confidently, reach out to them to do it too.
Right. With the
But
masks and things like
the
that.
dog sense you as the owner. They know that you're not so sure about what you're doing, and they will struggle more, and it may not be a good situation. So
So
yeah, if you have
gauging your own level of comfort and ease in doing that would probably then be the first priority in assessing whether or not you want to try it, so you don't make it worse. Am I hearing that?
Yep. Yeah,
And
yeah, it's true.
those Emery boards are pretty much widely available at, you can get it at your hardware store. I mean, not in the form of an Emery board, but in the form of a sanding thing. And then a lot of your stores that are open right now, your box stores ought to have some too. So what about the fur itself? I know with my outdoor cat, who's elderly and not able to groom himself now, he gets mats. And dogs that have a lot of hair, now my rescue dog, she has virtually no hair, although she manages to blow her coat out every day. I still haven't figured that out. My house is just covered with dog hair that's about this long. But with
Yep.
dogs or animals who do have a long hair, if when they get matted, I know eventually it can cause skin issues. So what are some tips there that people can do to help keep the animals groomed so that doesn't happen while they don't have access to their groomer like you?
Okay. Well, what you want to do is just keep practicing the good nutrition and exercise, just from, just starting with the basics. And probably the biggest tip I have is, brush your dog frequently. What it does is it loosens the undercoat and allows the follicles to be stimulated and allow the natural oils for the dog to come in. A lot of times a mat is static dander, and the with the dander getting caught in the mat, that's what kind of forms that ball of the coat in the mat. And so if that mat is staying there and it gets tighter and tighter and it gets drawn towards the skin, it can cause an irritation there. But for the first thing I can tell you is that if you brush that dog, at least maybe 3 times a week would be a good practice. Then that will reduce a lot of the mat forming. Another thing you can do in addition to brushing, if they start getting a little bit a little bit of a stinky odor to them, they have like a dry shampoo for dogs that you can pick up, and just follow the directions, spray it on, you rub it in. I think you wipe it off with like a damp washcloth. And also there's waterless shampoo, which is a spray that you can spray right onto the fur, and you kind of scrunch it in and wipe it off. And it's amazing that the dogs do smell better. I've tried it on my own dog when I had a dog, and it really is. It's like, hey, how did this how did they get this? Well, it breaks down all the oils, and that's what traps the odor, is a lot of the oils that
Okay.
your dog accumulates. So if you can keep all of that out with brushing and just a good, some people like to put their dog right, the smaller dogs anyway, at this time of year you can put them in the sink and wash them with preferably a dog shampoo, which is formulated for dogs. But if you don't have any, if you don't have anything, you can use like Head and Shoulders. A vet told me that once. She said if you ever had like with my own dog, she says if you ever have any flakiness or a lot of dryness, the Head and Shoulders will work really well. She says they test it. They test all this stuff on animals before they send it out to us. So it's a safe bet that that's going to remedy a lot of problems if you've got some skin problems or irritation. So
Okay.
and
And
always
just for
always condition when you wash.
so for general bathing, say if somebody didn't have Head and Shoulders in their house, is there something, if they didn't have dog shampoo or Head and Shoulders and they, for whatever reason, couldn't get it? I mean, there are many people that are delivering things now and curbside pickup, but if people didn't have the finances to go and buy something that they wouldn't normally use themselves, are there any household products like Dawn dish soap or anything like that that you can use, or is that not recommended?
Well, I can recommend that. I have used Dawn dishwashing liquid mixed in with a gentle shampoo. You know, some people have used baby shampoo with success. You know, the No More Tears for around their dog's eyes and face, and
Yep.
that's worked. Um, you know, it is hypoallergenic, and that's kind of what we're looking for when we use something on an animal, because they are susceptible to allergies just like you and I are. And in some cases a lot more. There's been a lot more skin related ear conditions that are allergy
Okay.
related, because you know that they're the pets are just so domesticated and so sensitive to the same type of things we are, that they're noticing that.
Okay. Now, speaking of the ears and the eyes, I'm thinking of real furry dogs that have a lot of hair around their head and their ears and their
Mm-hmm.
face. Or what
Mm-hmm.
strategies are that? You know, they get eye boogers like we do, and then their eyes run and it gets all matted. What are some things that people can do to help in those areas so they don't start getting ear infections or?
Right. And the same thing happens with the eye discharge in between the eyes here, right here, like a big deal for a lot of like the little toy breeds, and you don't want to try to pull that out as best as you can. If you're gonna bathe your dog, um, heavily condition that area right under the, or you know, right under the eye, around the nose area. If you condition it and let it sit there for maybe like at least a minute or so, when you rinse that dog's face, those things will slide right out with some conditioner, and even human conditioner, that'll happen too, because it's just such a oh boy, I don't know. It exfoliates, but it breaks up all that junk that's keeping it in, that crusty stuff that's keeping
Okay.
it in the fur. So even, and if you like, you can try to like get a little comb and comb it as it's as the conditioner is set on the eye. But I find that you know, if you just, you know, you agitate the area a little bit with it, rub it in, and you know, try not to get it in their eye, and rinse it. It usually will slide right out.
Now, if you were to take like just a warm washcloth every day and wipe that area out before it had a chance to get
If
crusty,
you,
would that help?
yeah, even a lot of people use baby wipes too. If you try, you know, don't get it in the eye, but the baby wipes have a lot of times they'll have like aloe in them,
Mhm.
and that's another thing that will help for them to slide right out of there. But if you this is for people that like, if I have dedicated customers that every single day, sometimes twice a day, they wipe their eyes and they clear them out, and it keeps them, usually the little white dogs, it helps to reduce the staining under their eyes. If you can be that dedicated and do that on a daily basis, I mean, that's ideal. But if you do have it built up and you have a little bit of discharge that's stuck in there,
Yeah, for
that's the other.
people who might not have learned these tips early on in this. We're what, 6 or 7
Yep.
weeks now into the social distancing, which I prefer to call it
Mm-hmm.
physical distancing because we can still be social like this. It's just a
Yeah.
little bit different, a physical distance of 6 feet or more. So for people
Yeah.
who might not have known to use the warm washcloth or the baby wipes, or might not been able to for whatever reason, then they have both, something to maintain it or something
Yeah.
to clear it and then maintain it if this goes on. And not just, you know, these tips are not just for this COVID crisis. We all can face anything. As you said, you know, you had that injury and you were out for 3 weeks. Anything can happen in our lives where we have a disruption
Yeah.
in our daily routine or the way that we normally do things. So these tips can be universal. So what, are there any other things other than like the fur and the nails that you do as a groomer? I know
Oh, I'm sorry. Just make sure that their ears are cleaned out well. And that's just basically, if you just take, like the baby wipe thing works pretty much with like a larger dog's ears, and just to sweep out the outer part of the ear, keep it clean and dry. And another thing I wanted to mention is, it's funny because when we get in our daily lives and we're so like on the go, and we have so many other diversions than like pet care. And I know that's come in handy for me as a business, because then that's what I take care of for people, so they can not have to be concerned about that. But when we slow down at a time like this, and we you're looking at your dog all day instead of going to work and doing the things that you normally do. It's kind of like a refocus of things, where before you didn't really think about all the things that went into your pet, and all the things that you need to do really to keep them healthy. But I don't know. I think it changes our perspective on everything, as far as, what's really important. And when you start stressing about your pet, it's like, that's one of the things that's really, really that important to you. The job can wait, other things can wait, but your dog's always there with you. Your dog's the one that, greets you when you come home through the door. So I don't know, I just was thinking about that for just something that just kind of popped into my head, that that we are quite centered around our pets.
well, they are, they're for most of us, they're a part of our family. They're a member of our family. And as you and I talked before, when we were first talking about setting up this discussion, the animals can't take care of themselves. They can't go to the pantry and get out their food, or they can't put their dish in the sink and pour the water. So they, as much as we are reliant on them and their companionship, they are even more so reliant on us. They're kind of like a newborn, that there are so many things they're not able to do for themselves, or
Right.
maybe a toddler. As they get older, obviously they can let us know they need to go outside and things like that. One of the other things that you mentioned when we were initially talking about doing this video was that some people had reached out to you about anal glands. And I know growing up, we had a poodle. I've never had a dog breed since that had to worry about anal glands, but I know that my parents always, that was an issue with that dog when we were growing up. Is that something that as a groomer you do, or is that something that really needs to be done by a vet? I know as the dog got older and we'd had her for a long time, I would assume it was the vet showed my mother what to do, and so sometimes she would do that at home. But can you speak to that briefly?
Yeah, there are, well, I'm gonna say there's maybe 20% of the dogs that I groom, which are usually the smaller toy breeds. Once you start expressing the anal glands, they do need to be manually expressed. So that's another thing. Yes, that's a good point. There are people that have learned, because the dog has to be, expressed so many times, usually the fall and the spring. It's very, very, it becomes more frequent that you've got to do that. So I have suggested that to people that are in that boat, that are without me, either that will do it. If that's not an option, there might be someone, a family friend or somebody that knows how to do that. There are YouTube videos, if you get desperate enough, that can show you how to do this procedure. It's very simple. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but it isn't, necessary. That is another option too for people. Boy, I'll tell you, I've fixed a lot of things and gotten a lot of education off of YouTube. I'm more of a visual person where I have to see how things work,
Right.
other than it out of a book, and that's right down my alley. But that certainly is an option.
Probably the last resort, though, because if you're not, I would guess, I know just from watching my mom when I was growing up, you can really cause the dog. It's, as you say, it's not easy for the human. It's probably not comfortable for the dog. So if you're really not comfortable in knowing what you're doing, you could actually cause the dog more pain. So have somebody, as a last resort, use video, but otherwise have somebody who really is trained that can show you and walk you through it. So possibly that would be something, maybe if people are going to the vet, can say, in case I'm ever in a situation, can you help show
and
me
I'm
this?
sure a vet will consider that to be a big priority, because if they don't have their glands emptied, then they can develop like infection and other problem blockages and things like that. So I'm sure that hopefully that would be considered as an emergency type of situation for you to be able to bring your dog in.
Now, for people who've had their dogs for a long time, and there's a breed that goes through that, then those dog owners know what to expect. For somebody that might have a newer animal, a newer pet, what are some of the symptoms that needs to be done?
If as far as the anal glands go,
is it an odor, or is there like swelling, or does the dog lick a lot? What are some of the symptoms that somebody needs to be aware of, that those anal glands need some attention?
Well, a lot of times they will pay attention to the back, like they will some dogs will kind of like whip around and like something's poking at them or something back there. They will do the scoot on the rug to try to relieve that pressure, because they feel a pressure back there. And since they don't have hands to do anything on their own, they will resort to scooting on the rug or trying to
get relief.
And and then they're usually, people will say, hey, I think you need to look at his anal glands because he stinks. They have like that kind of fishy type of odor to them, and that's usually what it is that they need to be expressed. And there's a buildup back there, and you will sometimes see like a swelling or irritation too.
So those are great symptoms. So how to deal with the dog's fur and nails and anal glands, some of the things to look for to help keep our pets as healthy as possible while we don't have access to our beloved groomers who help us do that. So I guess in parting, I mean, we covered a lot of ground here today, and I'm so grateful for you, because as you mentioned, our pets, they are our family, and they're like our children, and we want them to stay healthy and to be well. So I guess in the face of just any major adversity, where somebody has pets and their animals are also being affected in some way by the challenge, what would be parting words of wisdom that you might have for our neighbors in need?
Well, I think people's the stress of being put in a different position, like we're all kind of like you know, it's like it's almost like it's a surreal situation where it's completely out of our norm, and that always puts a lot of tension, anxiety, and stress on people. And you know, I felt the same way. And I mean, I'm usually pretty calm about things, but there are times where you know, it's the you feel that discomfort of being out of your comfort zone, your day-to-day tasks, and going to a job, for example. I mean, if I feel like shouldn't I be working right now? Because that's what I've always done. And since I'm not, I've just stopped and think about how it's okay. Don't stress, Kyle. It's gonna be over. I'm gonna be back to doing what I love to do. And I think that's important, that we have these pets here for companionship and to de-stress and to just connect to really with our heart chakras. I mean, that's how I feel it when I'm with animals. I'm connected there with that, just that that silent frequency, and knowing that it's okay. It's really going to be okay. And when I feel like that the pet responds to that, because we're I guess linking frequencies to a certain extent. And
well, pets are in there. There's a reason that there are so many animals that are used as therapy dogs, because they do have a calming effect on humans, and yet in doing that, they also are coming in contact and absorbing sometimes some of that energy for us. So I get that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's trusting and knowing that even though as hard as this is for us, this too shall pass.
Yes.
And knowing that it's hard when we're in the middle of it and the thick of it, and we don't have income, or we don't have livelihood, or some people can't get to the grocery store, or we're immune compromised. But just know that you have everything that you need to do to heal your conflicts, to provide for yourself and your family. There are resources there, and to get in touch with that sort of heart-centered peace and find what you need individually to create that peace for yourself. Am I hearing that?
Yes. And the pet can provide a lot of that, staying in the moment. I know that's what my cat does. When I feel kind of stressed out, I just look at her and I think, I just love you so much, and it does, it pops you out of that unknowing, you being, into tomorrow, when, it's better to stay in today. And that's easily said than done. But they do help you to do that, because they are so living in the moment themselves.
Right. They are. So speaking of living in the moment and yet looking at sort of the long term, Colleen, once you do get back to work, are you taking new clients?
I am taking new clients, because I'm 6 weeks behind. That it might be like summertime that we're looking into, like maybe June. Yeah, well, only because we got to do catch up.
Yeah, and we never know when somebody will actually hit the replay on this button. So, Colleen, I appreciate all of your time today and sharing your knowledge with us. and little, just simple, easy strategies and tips to help us help ourselves and our furry friends who really mean so much to us and are a part of our families. Neighbor, if you have any information or topics that you'd like to discuss, drop a comment below. And just remember that we are neighbors helping neighbors, and together we are helping heal worlds of hurt. So until next time, please know that I see you, I feel your pain, and I believe wholeheartedly that you have everything that you need to heal your conflicts, big and small, no matter the adversity you're facing. Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, take care.